Hi, I'm Riina from the Agile HR Community, and today we're going to do a quick introduction into Agile HR. We're going to use the amazing poster Agile HR in a Nutshell that Agile HR Community's founders co-created together with Mia Kolmodin from Dandy People. This is a quick overview of Agile HR, and we hope this inspires you to learn more and dive deeper. Agile HR is changing the HR profession, and we believe knowing this on a professional level is a must-have capability if you're working in HR today. To begin with, it's good to consider why Agile is important for HR. Organizations across the globe are seeking increased business agility to innovate and to meet the challenges of this increasingly complex and sometimes volatile business environment that we now operate in. We in HR have such important roles to play in this transformation. The other key reason is the challenges that we face in HR ourselves, the need to modernize, the need to digitalize, and the need to deliver value to our people and business at speed. And this is where Agile really can help HR. To help explain Agile HR, we divide this topic into two distinct sections. The first is Agile for HR, and this is all about embracing the Agile mindset, the tools and techniques in our own work. This is how we run our own projects and how we build a people strategy. The second section is HR for Agile, and this is all about our role in Agile organizational transformation. When our companies and businesses are moving towards Agile operating models, we in HR play an important role in the behavioral and structural changes required to build business agility. HR for Agile is also about reinventing and redesigning our HR and people practices for the future of work, ensuring that what we produce is helping the organization evolve and not stalling or blocking business innovation, agility, and end customer value delivery. So, let's look into Agile for HR first. The first section is about embracing the mindset. And the message here is that Agile is so much more than a project management methodology on what some people think sticky notes, scrum boards, and teams doing whatever they want. Agile is all about placing the customer at the heart of what we do and building business value while delivering to the customer. In HR, we often talk about being business-centric or true business partners, but quite often can't define the value for the business when asking about quantifying what the business value of our HR products or services is. This focus on the customer means that Agile HR makes us much more human-centric, because our aim is to constantly enrich the user experience and the employee experience of work. Next, Agile looks at how can we deliver the value incrementally, step by step, instead of through a big bang, implementing a whole solution for the whole organization at once. And this is pretty revolutionary for HR, because we've been pretty used to implementing or rolling out large-scale initiatives to everybody. Instead, Agile helps break down our big, complex deliveries into smaller chunks of work and start to deliver slices of value early and often. Our aim is to release parts of the products and service to our users and customers at a faster pace, of course trying to define these parts wisely. So, what part of the whole solution would already be valuable to our organization, teams or people? Could we build just that first and then continue with adding on more features or parts? We then use feedback from our customers. Does it work? Does it not? To then guide the next increment of work or the next update of that product. What's beautiful about Agile is that we are lowering the risk of releasing any HR products to the organization that wouldn't be used or wouldn't be liked. Because in Agile, we're constantly validating the value to our customers as we work. We look for feedback and test and prototype solutions long before we have invested in building them at scale. Next, we'll look at ways of working. So, once we embrace the mindset, you can start to evolve your own approach and style of Agile. There is no recipe or blueprint for adopting Agile HR, and there is no one way doing it or being Agile. Many HR teams are using a try and learn approach for finding the Agile HR operating model that suits them. You need to find the right framework that fits your own culture, your team structure and size, and your industry. Some teams dive into using Scrum in HR, others choose a framework called Kanban. Some have a hybrid approach, combining agile initiatives with more traditional approaches to some HR functions. Some HR teams have gone through several iterations of their modern, networked agile HR model and are in their third, fourth, or fifth model of operations. The point is, the HR operating model, the logic of how HR operates, won't be ready but will be under evolution. Whichever framework you do go for, there are some key similarities that are common to all agile HR teams. The first is forming of cross-functional teams. This means, for example, that reward, recruitment, talent and learning professionals might work in one team together solving complex problems. Ideally, the team includes business people and/or professionals from other functions too. Whomever is required to deliver the solution should form the core team. Some professionals needed for smaller bits of the delivery can join the team for part of the journey, but the core team consists of people with the capabilities to develop the solution end to end. Another increment is a cyclic cadence of work. This is moving HR away from the more traditional annual cycle that we've often based performance and reward on, and moves into a more frequent cycle of development, or moves HR practices and processes into a more ongoing, continuous cadence. For example, we can see many organizations moving from annual surveys to continuous listening and improvement practice. The final one is ruthless prioritization of what should be delivered, what is of biggest value, and where the effort to deliver it makes sense. Agile teams also visualize their work and bring transparency to the whole project and to the whole team. This allows many decisions to be made real time, and the team does not have to wait for meetings or steering group decisions because it's right there. Next, we're going to look at co-creating the employee experience. Now, this is what we believe truly changes how HR do their work. This is about inviting your people in to experiment with you and to discover together what works and what doesn't. It draws on tools and techniques from design thinking like personas, experience mapping and prototyping. It is all about getting you to step into the shoes of your people and start to redesign the experience of work with them, not at them. Now, this concept of co-creation is really powerful, and it transforms the concept of change management too. So when people are working on co-creating and influencing the change with you, you won't need to think you should manage people through the change later on. They will manage themselves and adopt the changes you have together co-created. Co-creation also highlights the importance of discovery work in HR. Quite often, HR is quick to draw conclusions and feel they know the answer. Then, we've also been keen on following best practices that we used last time, or trust the highest paid person's opinion, this is what we call the HIPPO, without any real evidence. Instead, discovery is all about finding out what the answer is and using that evidence we collect to validate our decisions. Instead of opinions, we've got data. Instead of HR's previous experience, we build on what our customers have told us what they need. Agile teams also validate their solutions through experimentation in small scale. If the experiment fails, we can actually just leave the idea and not continue building a solution around it. This way we can save a lot of sunk cost that otherwise would have been spent on building the whole solution and only realizing those flaws of the solution after the whole would have been implemented. Agile HR is about being evidence-based in everything we do. For example, you might invite people into actually mapping out a whole HR service and then start to redesign it together because it improves the people's experience of work. Or you can be evidence-based by simply walking down the corridor and asking 5 people what they think of a piece of communication and email before you send it out. Working more evidence-based can really help the HR profession to be seen as a more credible business partner. We bring facts to the decision-making tables and develop our solutions on actual received feedback. The good thing about all of these techniques is that you can actually start them tomorrow, even if you're not fully working Agile yet. The big difference is, how do we see ourselves delivering value, developing HR products or services, or facilitating change in our organization? Do we use the so-called waterfall approach, meaning we believe we can plan the whole solution up front, define the requirements in the beginning, then set out to build the whole solution and implement it in one go? Or do we accept that whatever we are working on will be impacted by changes and unexpected events, and we can't plan the whole solution up front? These are the environments or problems that need an agile or value-driven incremental approach. Essentially, the more traditional way of running a project, the waterfall way, where you planned everything up front, is just too rigid. It didn't allow for a changing scope, a changing customer needs, or a change in budget, which, as we know, happens all the time in HR. If we know we are dealing with a changing environment and still have to deliver value or solutions to our organizations, we can choose the agile approach. Here, you are driven by a vision and an outcome rather than predefined detailed specifications. In Agile, we are doing planning, but it's done as a recurring activity, meaning planning is done with a certain frequency that allows us to consider needed changes to our next few deliverables. In Agile, you also deliver parts of the product to the customer before the whole is done. And you get feedback from the customer to know if you're on the right track, does this work or doesn't it? Then you use that feedback to guide the next increment of work. Now, let's look at the other section of which we call HR for Agile. This is all about our role in Agile organizational transformation. This is about how we use the Agile mindset to begin to reinvent HR and our people practices for the future of work. The first section is organizational design for Agile. This is how we help our businesses build agility and innovate and deliver value at speed. A key to this is driving a business that is customer-centric, building teams that can make data-driven decisions, getting that shared narrative and alignment of purpose and vision that allows true autonomy at that team level. HR should also be facilitating and defining the role of the Agile leader, enabling self-organizing teams and supporting their performance, also supporting their ongoing improvement. We can also see a need for new roles, such as product owner or scrum master. In some companies, we have a transition towards a structure without any managers at all. The key here is that the HR needs to develop a new capability in agile organizational design that essentially modernizes it for the future of work. This moves us into the next part, which is understanding agile organizations. There are several different existing frameworks about scaling agile organizations. But Agile is first and foremost a team-based working model. Imagine that you've got multiple teams, tens, hundreds, all collaborating together to deliver a product through to your customer. Now, this has led to the development of quite a few different models out there that you may have heard of. So, for example, Spotify, SAFe model, or Scrum at Scale. In HR, we don't need to be an expert in all of these models, but we do need to be aware of them and be ready to ask the right questions and help our leaders make the decisions on what kind of scaling approach is right for your organization. Also for HR, we've often been able to assume there's the same operating model if we move to another organization. But now we can have multiple models, sometimes even within the same organization. The danger with transformations is also that people who are more used to a waterfall, big bang type of approach see organizational change as an implementation that can be rolled out too. They might take a scaled model and believe it can be rolled out like a blueprint, and that they are ready after this kind of an implementation. We think agile organizational transformation and operating models is one of the biggest behavioral shifts going on in work life in a century. This behavioral and mindset change cannot be implemented. The key is to do emergent transformations and again, co-create a contextual design that's right for your culture and your industry. Next, we're going to look at Agile HR services. This is the cool stuff. It's about how we embrace an agile mindset and start to redesign HR and our people practices to support the modern ways of working and essentially co-create the future work and employee experience with our people. The organizations of today have a much flatter structure. The employees are recognized for diversity. They are used to digital tools and outstanding services from their private lives. To offer the same user experience throughout our HR processes, we need to embrace an agile mindset and start co-creating the answers through the test and learn approach. Of course, we must be mindful of the constraints in which we operate in HR. So yes, we do need to consider compliance and legislation, and of course, we need to keep our people safe. But let's not lead with the compliance constraints, but with the value we want to create for the business and the people, and what works when adopted in reality. Let's make it more about the user experience and how we get the people to be really great at their job, rather than a mandatory approval and checkbox ticking processes. If you found this video useful, please like, share it around, use it for your HR team's inspiration, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you go into the description below, you can find more information on our Agile trainings for HR, other Agile trainings for non-IT professionals, Agile trainings for leaders, as well as our meetups and other events we run both virtually and across the globe live. Thank you for your time.